boot of an EV, and now you've seen this very often. The whole thing goes up, and this is massive when we're talking about boot space. A spare tire here in the back, and then of course you have the charger. When we're talking about charging, by the way, it all happens here. The magic happens here. That massive battery pack is fed from here, and of course you have slow and fast charging options. Look, this is a very expensive EV. What we want to understand through the course of this review is if the technology is there and it's really expensive, when mass adoption starts of EVs, and it's coming sooner rather than later, we keep saying that on Tech Today, then there's enough inspiration to draw from the EQS. A lot of the Indian manufacturers are working on bigger battery packs, better battery management systems. If this car claims that they can do 850 kilometers on a single charge, that's the ARAI range. In real world scenarios, if you're really zipping it like we have, 650 to 700 kilometers, and I think that is amazing. On a single charge, if an EV can give you that, range anxiety is down the drain. Look, for me, a commute to office from home is around 10 to 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers is to and fro. 20 kilometers over a month, if I go to office every day, would be 600 kilometers. That means I need to charge this car maybe once and a small top-up in the week, and I'm good to go. I think that speaks volumes about how EVs are going to overtake ICE engines. But that's just a topic that I wanted to talk about. If we get inside the car, there's so much tech loaded in this car that it's really not an auto review. It is a technology review in its truest sense. Let's hop on inside. The minute you enter the cabin of the EQS, it feels like you've actually walked into the sets of Star Wars or Star Trek or some sci-fi movie, because this is like a spaceship. I want to quickly show you the cameras as well in this car, because if you look at the camera system, it is quite impressive. The good part is you can check your surroundings either way, right? If you were to turn it around, you get this full 3D view. I'm going to now take you on the road and give you a little bit of a lowdown in terms of some of the features of the car. This is a massive 56-inch tri-screen sort of a system. They call it Hyperscreen, very intuitive. And what I like the most about this system is the maps. 3D maps which can blow your mind. It's literally better than Google Maps, very accurate and brilliant depiction when you go all 3D on it as well. So I think that's a great feature. If you are approaching, say, a speed breaker, then what you need to do out there is actually slow down a little bit, press this button, and there's a bunch of buttons here. And then there's a button right here on the screen which says raise vehicle level. The car's lifted, I think, by a few millimeters, and you can then take the speed breakers quite easily. I think that's a really, really helpful, nifty sort of a feature. Of course, when you are giving an indicator to move on the left or the right, there's always an indicator in the side rear view mirrors telling you if it's safe to turn. And it's not just that. This ambient lighting that you see in the car, which is adaptive, is actually quite purposeful as well. It's not just a gimmick, because it does change its colors to signal certain safety features in the car, which I think is great. For instance, if you open the door and there's someone or some obstacle in your path or some oncoming traffic, it will then turn red to signal to you that, hey, you know what? There's someone coming and you need to wait up. And I think these kinds of small tech features can go a long way in making the whole experience a lot safer. If you look at the Mercedes EQS right here, we know what the charge levels are like. You can also see this on this screen if you want. That screen doesn't do too much, barring the fact that you can play some content with wireless headphones for the passenger. I think this is a car, either you're driving it or you're seated at the back. That's the kind of car the EQS is. Now, if you go back over here, and it's not like the other buttons do not exist, right? There are still buttons over here with all sorts of functionality. If you want the EQS menu, like I showed you, can go back to it over here. Then you have drive modes: Eco, Comfort, Sport, and boy, it really does come into its own in Sport mode, and then an individual mode as well. Let me put this in Sport mode. There you go. Effortless. for this vehicle. I am just so impressed, so silent, so safe, and so planted. You know, if you take this on the highway, I think this would be the highway vehicle that everyone would actually want if they could afford it. This is an absolute pleasure to take on these sort of roads. And like you saw on the highway as well, you can overtake anyone, take turns whenever you want to. It's very planted, it feels very stable. And honestly, this is perhaps one of the best EVs I've ever driven. I always say technology is a double-edged sword. You're driving this in Indian traffic in a city like Mumbai, like I showed you just shortly before, and people are coming all over the place. If you've forgotten to turn off one function, then this car can also sort of let the tech overtake you, or should I say overtake you. Let me explain how. If you have a lot of pedestrians coming your way, you need to turn one feature off. Go on the settings in the car, and the minute you come right here on brake assist, you'll see collision avoidance, active brake assist. Turn this off. It's off right now. You can leave it on this right over here, and I'll tell you what that actually means. That now means that the technology in the car, which ends up braking by itself, assisting you with the braking, or thinking it needs to brake when there's a chance of a collision with a pedestrian or any sort of object, that will stop. So this seems to be the first thing, and I think Mercedes should have made a nice, neat little shortcut for this, because this is the first thing you need to do when you're driving in Mumbai traffic. Now this is a very long car, and I'm saying long literally because it's 5.2 meters long. To actually take a U-turn like this, it's no easy task. We take this road often on some of our shoots, and even the compact SUVs don't always do this in one shot. That's because they don't have rear axle steering. This one does. Let me show you what it means. Normally, you're just going to move from the front, right? These wheels would move to make you turn, but this has a little cheat code at the back, which is what I want to show you. 10 degrees of tilt, and you're going to start seeing how this rear wheel now is helping me turn this massive, massive EV. And there you go. With a lot of room to spare, this was even easier than most of the small cars we've brought on this stretch. And honestly, Mercedes, well done. This should be a feature on all Indian cars. Off I go now. All right, what's it like to be seated in the rear of this car? A lot of leg room, because that is adjusted for someone of my height. So if two people around 6 feet tall can fit, then fantastic. You have a bunch of vents here, and yes, this is not ideal for a full adult, but someone in their teens can fit here, or someone very lean. But that's not the real fun, right? The real fun is when you look at this lever and pluck it out, and there you go. You've got a nice, neat little screen out here. I think it's a Samsung tablet. You can pull it out as well. There's the ambient lighting. You can change the color from here. You want to go monochrome, go monochrome. You want to go the particular color, you can have a look. See, the colors are changing right here. It's quite a good mirror of the three screens in the front, primarily the center screen. You can also access some of the settings. Only things for the rear passengers: interior assistance system, lights, and of course, basic vehicle thing. There is a small little button here if you want to access this space and maybe place your phone on charging. Fits perfectly, the Pro Max. And also, there you go. It's already started charging. That's a great little addition over here. All in all, if you're taking this vehicle on a single charge, it can do Delhi to Jaipur or Mumbai to Pune back and forth, or maybe even Kochi to Trivandrum back and forth. And not just that, by the way, this already knows that we have reached a speed breaker, and it can then raise the vehicle level based on GPS, which I think is a really cool, intuitive tech feature. But coming back to our point, if you're even doing a boys' trip to Goa and you want to head there at least one way and then get a charging station out there, I think the EQS can actually last you on a single charge. And that's saying a lot. Yes, it's 1.55 crores ex-showroom, and then you're going to get all sorts of rebates for EVs and stuff like that as well. It's slightly more expensive than other EVs, actually much more expensive than most EVs. But in terms of tech, it's right up there. So if anyone from the EV space wants to innovate and has to look up to something, this is the big brother that everyone should be looking up to get that sort of inspiration to make your EV tech even better. This is officially on Tech Today the best EV that we have driven yet. If you're an Apple fanboy and you want to buy the new 14 Pro or 14 Pro Max in India, then there is a long waiting line. And that queue or waiting line is going to get a lot longer. Why is it so? When can you actually get your device? And is there something that Apple's doing about it? Well, here's a special report.
The most anticipated iPhones of this year were certainly the iPhone 14 Pro and the Pro Max. And this anticipation gave rise to its demand, a demand that hasn't been met with in more than a couple of weeks now. The two new phones haven't been seen on shelves recently as their supply remains short. In fact, this issue surfaced in India last month when the State Minister for IT and Electronics, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, had taken cognizance. The minister has tweeted that he had spoken to the company and he has been assured of the steps being taken to meet the demand in the country. But it was shortly after that the company issued a statement on November 7th explaining the reasons behind this crunch. Almost over 80% of iPhones are assembled in China's Zhengzhou region, which is currently under lockdown as per China's zero COVID policy. The company has in fact made it quite clear that there is nothing that can be done except for wait a little longer. It has assured that steps are being taken to meet the demand as well as ensuring workers' health at the same time. Meanwhile, Apple is also ensuring another facility where iPhones can be assembled, and one such facility there will soon be opening up in India. The company has entered into a contract with Taiwan's Pegatron to set up a plant in India. Well, this will also mark Apple's second facility in India as Foxconn, another one of Apple's contractors, started producing iPhone 14s in India back in September.
You know what I'm thinking? These robots over here sorting packages, doing all sorts of things autonomously, they must need a break. They might need to get recharged. Of course they do. It's technology. But you, my friend, also need to take a break, even if you're enjoying this action-packed episode of Tech Today. There's a lot more coming in the second half of the show. Don't miss it. I'm going to see you very soon.
Ritika.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Telangana on Saturday to inaugurate a series of developmental projects. Modi launched the Ramagundam fertilizer plant and dedicated the Bhadrachalam Road Sattupalli rail line to the nation. Addressing a BJP workers' convention, Prime Minister Modi took a sharp dig at the ruling TRS party, accusing it of committing atrocities against the people of Telangana. Modi expressed confidence that BJP would come to power in the state, claiming that the people were fed up with family politics.
साथियों, भ्रष्टाचार और परिवारवाद गरीब का सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन होता है। भ्रष्टाचार और परिवारवाद विकास का सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन होता है। इसलिए भाजपा भ्रष्टाचार और परिवारवाद दोनों से लगातार मोर्चा ले रहा है।
Welcome back to Tech Today. I'm your host Aayush Ailawadi, and yes, I might be in a lot of places, but I promise you, till the metaverse really picks up, yes, Mr. Zuckerberg, I am here in Boston, Massachusetts. Actually, I'm here at the Amazon Robotics headquarters, and we have all sorts of coverage, like I said, on the Business Today and Tech Today social media handles. But before I get to the next bit of our show, I want to tell you a little bit about this robotic system. They call it Robin here. And when you're talking about how Amazon uses technology, I found this really fascinating, so I wanted to show it to you. On the other end of this fence, you'll see these packages that are coming in over here. They come up on this conveyor belt and they go straight to that robotic arm. Robin then identifies which ones of them are in which zip codes or pin codes for us in India. And once those particular locations are identified, the arm picks it up, places it on one of those mobile robots, then completely automated, end up picking up this stuff and taking it to those drives over there, right? Those particular yellow things that you're seeing is how it sorts it all out. All of this happens efficiently without any human intervention. Now, if human intervention is needed and there's been a small error in this particular process. They actually have a special vest here in Amazon where the engineer can wear that vest, walk in, everything slows down, and he can rectify any sort of small issue. But this is largely a smooth and efficient process, and how you manage to get same-day deliveries and deliveries with lightning-fast speeds when you order stuff on Amazon. Now, that's me geeking it out over here. Like I said, a lot more coverage on our social media handles, our website, and on the show. A very special conversation as well is coming to you on Tech Today. But there was another conversation that I had at the India Today conclave in Mumbai, and that was with Ankur Warikoo, YouTuber, content creator, motivational speaker, startup entrepreneur. But he had a lot of learnings in that long and circuitous journey from startup entrepreneur to YouTuber, and now, well, making the big bucks as a content creator. Here's what he had to say.
It's just an interesting, Ankur, because at some point or the other, as a business journalist or even in your original avatar, our paths would have crossed. Because when I was a kid, I always dreamed of becoming an astronaut. But you also thought of being the first man on Mars. Now, is that something that we're just, giving as this PR spiel? Or was that the true story? Because you did go to pursue your PhD in the US, but you dropped out. Then you come back and pursue an MBA. How did that whole chakra really happen?
So it's true. I had a 3-step plan for my life. Step 1 was to go to the US to get a PhD. Step 2 was to become a space scientist and join NASA. And step 3 was to become the first man on Mars. And if you speak to anybody from my school and ask them, hey, do you remember Ankur Warikoo? They're like, shayad. What do you remember of him? And they'll be like, usko NASA jana tha. Like, that was my identity.
And mind you, this is much before Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk spoke about
This is before Elon Musk has come into the picture. This is before Shah Rukh Khan has come back to India in the movie Swades as a NASA engineer. So none of this is polluted by Bollywood or pop culture. And when I went to the US for my PhD, which I was grateful to experience, I realized that what I was doing, which was physics, was something that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. And it was for the first time, Aayush, it struck me that what you're good at and what makes you happy could be two entirely different things. It was a shocking revelation for me, and I couldn't deal with that. I needed time to process it. And the only thing that I kept reminding myself, which I hoped was true, and now I know it is, if I'm not happy doing something, I will never be the best at it. Khatam. That's it. So it was just a very, very courageous move on my part. I do not know where I got that courage from, but I decided to step down from the PhD program, come back to India. I was completely confused. And my friends were like, hey, you're confused? So why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA. And I don't know how many of you are MBAs in the room, but we would sheepishly raise our hands to admit the fact that most MBAs, when they go on to do one, are just clueless about what to do in life, and that's why they did. That was pretty much the journey for me as well. But that 1 year at ISB just fundamentally changed me and everything about me, so I'm glad I went through that.
And while everyone's watched your content and your ads throughout the pandemic, I can imagine everyone here on YouTube has seen an Ankur Warikoo ad and then subscribed. So kudos to you for that, because your ads were quite tantalizing that way. But when you were going through this process, a little known fact that people don't really know about is that you were running a blog for 16, 17 years, and then you came in front of the camera. That must have been a transition for you.
The transition happened much earlier, Aayush, but it was a big transition even when it happened to the scale that it did. So you're right, and I'm very impressed that you know this fact. I started blogging when I was a business school student at ISB. So it started in 2005. I still write a blog every single day. Yeah. It gives me immense joy to write. And I started creating video content around 2015.
That's right.
My YouTube channel started in 2017. So I had been creating content, but it was very niche, English, entrepreneurship focused. So there was a strata of society that would appeal, be driven towards it, but not necessarily a mass audience that is today. And when I started to go deep into the content, I changed to English. I changed to much broader subjects such as personal finance and career and so on. And that changed the scale of how it has been.
When you're talking about wearables, Titan in India has launched yet another wearable. It's called the Titan Talk. Now, this is a smartwatch, as they say. But how smart is this smartwatch? Well, we're going to find out on Tech Today.
Titan, one of India's most trusted watch brands, is trying to capture a slice of the wearables market. It has recently launched the Titan Smart Talk. a smartwatch which comes with Bluetooth calling, a feature that was previously not available with other Titan smartwatches. So is it a hit or a miss? Let's find out. The Titan Smart Talk comes with a 1.39-inch AMOLED display. It also has cool features like music playback and storage. It also comes with an AI voice assistant. The touchscreen is fairly responsive, even better than other smartwatches we've reviewed in the same price range. The latest feature in the watch is Bluetooth calling. It also comes with a built-in keypad, which functions fine, apart from the keys on the periphery. The company claims that the watch works up to 5 days with a full charge, and this is exactly what we experienced. The watch retails for 14,995 rupees, but currently it's being sold for 9,995 rupees because of the festive discount. But is it truly bang for buck? Maybe not. The watch does not have an auto brightness adjustment feature. This feature is actually common amongst other smartwatches in the same price range. The watch takes a considerable amount of time in displaying new watch faces. Moreover, the crown button seems totally redundant. Despite all the hype around the calling features of the watch does not sync contacts with the cell phone, even days after connecting both the devices. Although the watch has many exciting features like Bluetooth calling, a very good and responsive touchscreen display, music player, AI voice assistant, but it seems like all these features still don't justify the very hefty price tag. What are your views? Do let us know in the comment section.
Well, it's been an action-packed episode of Tech Today, and I'm so glad you're tuned in. If you've enjoyed geeking out with us here at the Amazon Robotics facility, well then let us know on our social media handles. I can promise you this. Whilst we're here in the US, we're going to be geeking out on a lot of cool tech. What you have to do is stay tuned, of course, to the TV show, our social media handles, our website, that's where all the action will be, and wherever you hear the name Tech Today. This is your host, Aayush Ailawadi, saying thank you so much for geeking out with us. Until next week, adios.
Co-presented by Max Life Insurance. You are the difference.
England has won the toss and they have decided to bowl first. That's the latest that's coming in the T20 World Cup. England has decided to send Pakistan to bat first in the final. Josh Buttler has won the toss and England has decided to chase. That's the latest coming in from the T20 World Cup. England has decided to field against Pakistan. Both the teams remain unchanged for the final.